Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video for the warships, and again I will be talking about steel ships once again because we are going to have this massive opportunity of getting a single steel ship, and I want to make sure that every player can understand the play styles, the role, the way you can actually make either cruisers work, either battleship or destroyers. But in this case, we will be talking about only cruisers, and I will talk about all the cruisers that we currently have in our steel section. So the first steel ship that I would like to talk about is going to be Austin. Now, the thing about this video is that I will explain everything about the particular playstyle and how the role is defined for that cruiser. If you can understand that, this will also gain or give you an opportunity to basically have an informed decision whether this cruiser is actually for you or not. Okay, so let's talk about it. But before that, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that, because I explain a lot of stuff, a lot of good things that are coming. Anything that comes in World of Warships, I will definitely gonna touch in my channel so that you can get the best value for yourself and enjoy the game. So let's talk about it. So first of all, we have the Austin. Now I have picked the Austin because I have talked in my last video Stalingrad and Svea many times. I know they were very good and probably the top picks for steel ships for cruiser. But now here I would like to talk about the Austin's role and playstyle. Now Austin playstyle is basically opportunistic and kind of using islands as cover and in kiting situation. Like these are the things that you have to do. Austin loves opportunity, and if you find amazing opportunity, you can use this reload booster, which by the way is infinite. They come very quickly. The main battery load time gets minus 75% for 15 seconds, and since you do have the sap and HE shells which having really good shell velocity, I think the Austin has amazing firepower once you get the opportunity. And what happens is, if you find a destroyer, if there's an enemy destroyer spotted by your destroyer, you use the reload booster, and that smash button that you are going to do onto that destroyer will kill him most likely, because then again your reload time gets significantly better for 15 seconds. Your sap DPM gets pretty absurd. Like literally, the thing about the Austin, the fun factor about the Austin is really about you use the reload booster on right times. This is the thing that shines this ship and kind of makes it unique. Even in 2025, I don't think so there's any other ship besides, I would say, the San Diego, which by the way you can get it for free from In the Name of Tomorrow Operations. I have made a couple of videos, you can go and check that out, but hopefully you get it and get it for free. But let's talk about Austin again. So yeah, the sap DPM, it's not that impressive. The reload time the base reload time is worse, just because that you do have that reload booster. So you just use it in the opportunistic way possible, and then you can also kite away if there are battleships pushing you, and then you can also smash broadside cruisers if you get the opportunity with sap. And that's what you do in Austin. And also, someone is pushing you and someone is coming from island to open water, you can also use the torpedoes. And you can also bait your armor if you are very close. Again, the playstyles and role, right? The role of the Austin is to basically having a support role. You're supporting a destroyer, you're supporting a battleship against battleship, you're supporting the cruiser against cruiser, and you're fighting against aircraft carrier with your decent anti-defense, which is gonna be even more better with the defensive fire. So support role, you get the smoke, you get more value, but opportunistic situations when they come, you utilize the Austin. You basically utilize every bit of that DPM with the reload booster as much as possible. And since the reload boosters are infinite, find the opportunity within 105 seconds. Do this often, and if you do it and like time it with the cooldown time often, like 105 seconds is basically enough to find the opportunity, the next opportunity before you pump that reload booster. If you do sync the cooldown time, find the opportunity, and then shoot this main battery load booster with absurd DPM, you will actually going to see you can rack up so much damage in Austin. It's not even funny. But that's the part. That's what defines the skill gap of Austin between a average player or a very good player, finding the opportunities, finding the islands as cover, finding the positions where you can just help your battleship, cruiser, or destroyer player. And that's where the Austin shines, okay? And your concealment is also very good. If you look at the concealment number, it's 9.3 kilometer, which is very, very good, very, very stealthy. So you cannot be outspotted by many cruisers, except I think the Kitagami can outspot you. But man, I mean, if the Kitagami outspots you, he can be spotted in a very tough position and he can be smashed. Well, but it's not about Kitagami, it's about the Austin. And I think that with this decent concealment, you will definitely gonna have a good opportunity. But remember, you do have Citadel. You are actually going to get overmatched by Yamatos and Satsumas pretty hard from the deck, which is devastating because no matter how angling sort of thing that you're doing, if they overmatch you with 460mm guns, they will simply dev strike you. So incomparable Satsuma, Shikishima, Hanover, those are very tricky targets and you don't want to be open water against them. Or if you do that, you're risking your entire HP because a single salvo will define whether you are going to be in port or you are just going to be saying, oh, I'm lucky. I'm pretty lucky. That's what I have to say. On the other hand, this 32mm armor is also kind of a blessing because once you are trying to brawl, I know it's not for brawling, but you can actually bait your 32mm armor plating if there's no Yamato Satsumas and Shikishimas. Okay, those are the things that you don't want to see. But if you see a Vermont, Montana, John Bard, maybe something like that, that has less caliber than 460, you can bait your armor. And you can bait your armor so well that even they will be like, are you using cheat? Because it's not a cheat, it's just the armor profile that is kind of interesting and unique enough that you can bait the shots. Not landing shots on your Citadel, you have to stay angled and you will see that it will do wonders. What you want to do that you just don't let them shoot here, and Austin will just gonna do amazing things. Like, oh boy, broadside battleship, cruiser, destroyer, you name it. It's just gonna wreck that damage very quickly. And it's one of the fun cruisers, I would say, in World of Warships. Definitely interesting cruiser. And I'm not gonna say worthy for steal compared to Svea and Stalingrad. Those are my first picks. I have made an extensive video on that, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday. You can go and check that out. But man, I have explained the role. The role is pretty simple. So support using islands and you will do well. Alright, so let's talk about this Russian, you can say heavy cruiser because the guns are basically like heavy cruiser like, but the armor is kind of light cruiser like. And it's kind of weird that you do have 30mm plating that you find on heavy cruisers, but man, your broadside is kind of, you can simply compare it with, maybe I would say Minotaur. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. It's actually kind of like Minotaur in terms of how bad the Citadel armor really is. We will talk about that. We need to talk about the role, the playstyle. Yes. So the Komissar is, you just simply kite. You just simply farm, kite, and use these amazing guns, which having really good DPM numbers. The AP is amazing. The AP penetration is amazing. It's having better AP performance than Moskva, and it has improved pan angles. You use these guns and you kite away. Yes, your fighting angles is not the best. Sometimes you have to show a bit of the broadside, usually not so much, but you have to like super tightly angle to just stay your Citadel protected. Otherwise, yeah, that fighting angle is not like super amazing, but it can be worked around in kiting, right? But the strength of the Komissar is the guns, and the weakness of the Komissar is the hull. Hull is basically trash. It's paper hull. Yes, you may be thinking look at the armor, 30mm. You might think, oh, it can bounce, but how much can you bounce when you do have the superstructure and you have 25mm plating with a massive Citadel, okay? So the play style and the role of Komissar is to kite and support battleships. Now the islands as cover are not as good as you can say in the Austin, because Austin still have decent shell velocity on the guns, but they still have some arcy shells. The Komissar is a Russian cruiser, and Russian cruiser shell arcs are flat, a lot flatter than the Austin. So island as cover, sometimes you can do that when the islands are very sort of shallow. They are not like having the height. Otherwise, you play it in kiting, and it's doing well in kiting because it's supported by the fact that you do have the concealment. You do not have the good maneuverability. In fact, the turning circle is absolutely garbage for a cruiser like that. You have to mitigate once you are turning out. If you are turning out in a wrong position, you are dead. You are dev strike. I tell you there. This is not a joke. You're just going to get dev strike if you broadside full. A battleship that even does not have the best of the dispersion can still land a couple of shells, dealing massive citadel damage. So this is something that you have to be very careful for Komissar. But on the other hand, something that I kind of don't like about the hybrid, and you should know that it's a hybrid because it does have planes. It does have carrier gimmick on a cruiser. So what happens is, you can launch planes here and there all the time, right? You do have 2 minutes before the planes will be loaded, and once they're loaded, you can launch them, and they do massive damage. They have really good armor penetration capability. They can do really well. I'm not going to talk about the performance of the rockets. It's just that it can spot for you. So you can basically counter destroyers. So that is also added into the playstyle of Komissar. You can spot destroyers, you can spot cruisers and battleships as well. So you can do that in a cruiser, which is unlike any other cruiser. So something that you should definitely utilize at its best. Kite, farm, pop plane, spot, especially the destroyer that is trying to harass your battleships, and you will see that you will have more game impact after spotting destroyers with these planes. So just do that and it will just do wonders. It's just that you have to mitigate its biggest weakness, that's the armor, and utilize its biggest strength, which is the guns and aircraft. In kiting, never push unless you certainly know that you are not in crossfire. If you're not in crossfire, you can push, you can go behind the islands, and yes, you can go behind the islands and can launch planes, but you are not going to utilize the guns, which is the best part of the Komissar. It's the second best part, not the best part. Then you have entire defense, which is also kind of, not gonna say the best, but somehow I have explained it many times in my video that it does have access to a very special defensive fire, having double the amount of continuous air damage than normal defensive fire. And also, I haven't talked about that in my previous videos, that you do have improved cooldown time on repair party. So, and you do have 5 consumables, so you do heal a lot over time. That's the thing that I like about the Komissar. You do have extra heal, and then you just have the fast cooldown time to tank that damage, that if you are suffering from any overmatching battleship, then you have to be careful in Komissar. So that is pretty much it. Kiting, roll, not pushing in, only pushing under very, very limited situations, otherwise you are going to completely get cooked. Otherwise, just play it that way and you can rack up easily. 200k damage is not a bad, it's not a good, it's not something that is difficult to do. That's I wanted to say, to be honest. So 200k damage, very easy if you have given 15 minutes in the single game. In the single random game, there's a very high chance of doing 200k damage. It's just that you have to play safe, careful, utilize your guns, and survive till the end. And even if you die, or I would say even if you are about to die, just don't risk your ship. Just launch the planes. Just launch the planes, man. At the end, you can just keep launching them till the end, and then just maybe throw your ship away if you are losing. If you do have like 3,000 HP remaining. This is something that is kind of a tip that you can also add when playing Komissar. Okay, so Amiral Lartigue, this is the tier 10 French cruiser. It's the latest addition in the steel section. And I'm gonna say one thing, it's also, by the way, a hybrid. And as you can see, it does have very clearly a carrier deck on top of the ship hull, which is unlike Komissar. Komissar launch planes under the superstructure where it does not need that carrier hull or carrier like deck armor. Okay, Lartigue does have it, which kind of comes with strengths and weaknesses, but the strength of the Lartigue compared to the Komissar is that it does have a bit more tankiness. I'm not gonna say insane tankiness at mid to close range, but relatively more tankiness due to the fact that you do have 32mm deck armor and side armor plating, which can bounce every battleship shell. If you are dealing with Yamato, Satsumas, and Chikishimas, well, then it can be overmatched, and then you do have this very gigantic tumor-like superstructure which can be farmed by destroyer and cruiser. So yeah, it's something that you have to still mitigate regardless of how tanky that it looks like compared to Komissar. Again, I'm comparing it with Komissar because the role of the Lartigue, the playstyle of the Lartigue is aggressive, It's not passive, it's aggressive. You can now use islands as cover, unlike Komissar, where you have to keep kiting, use all the guns. Kite, farm. That's it. Most of the time. Unless you push at the late game, and maybe then we talk about Komissar doing some aggression. But Lartigue can do well in aggression because it can use the island as cover. It can, or I would say it only needs to show the frontal area, unlike Komissar that it has to use all the area because it has to use the back guns. Komissar needs the back guns to utilize its full gun potential, but Lartigue has all the guns in the front. So you just play island to island as cover. So you can, if you have played Des Moines, now let's just take it that way. If you have played Des Moines is also using all the 6 guns and using island as cover, and then you can kind of work around that with Lartigue. So the playstyle is relatively aggressive, island to island, and then just shooting and really dealing damage to battleships, cruisers, and it's very good with that. Just like Komissar, the AP is amazing. Dispersion is amazing. Komissar also have really good dispersion. It also have really good dispersion. Both have cruiser dispersion ellipse, but Komissar gets a lot of guns, so a lot of alpha, or I would say broadside alpha. Lartigue can citadel once and a cruiser's broadside again, and then you can do twice the same result with decent damage. Komissar can just punch a bit more due to a lot of guns, but it does have better alpha, 9.7k. It does have good HE, good fire chance, so it can do well in aggression, relatively decent aggression compared to Komissar. So, but again, it's not like it's just gonna tank directly. No way. You have to still use the islands as cover. Sometimes you have to kite away. Although the kiting playstyle on Amiral Lartigue is very difficult because your guns are on the front. And it's not designed to be like that. I mean, it's gonna suffer a bit more in kiting because the firing angles are not something that you will be very friendly with when playing Lartigue. So yeah, these are the things that kind of makes utilization of islands a lot much more prevalent, which can be more effective because then you are closer with your teammates and can provide support. Again, support. There is no aggression that you want to do in Lartigue. In fact, no cruiser can do really insane aggression. Maybe under some situations Stalin, but even then it's mostly actually passive for many reasons which we will talk. But yeah, Lartigue is that. And then you have planes. Skip HE bombers. I'm not going to explain how it works, but what I do tell you that you can, again, just like Komissar, spot for yourself. Spot for your destroyers, counter enemy destroyers. You can just keep hovering the plane over the destroyer if it does not have smoke, especially if it does have weak, I would say, A. You can just keep them lit, farm them with the help of your teammates, and you can just do wonders with the spotting. Cruiser spotting, battleship spotting. This is the playstyle. Again, aggression, islands, and then spotting. So this is the playstyle, and this is the role of Komissar: supporting, and supporting. Doing damage and also mitigating if the enemy team shoots at you. Again, concealment does works well. It does have decent speed. It does have, by the way, speed boost. Repositioning in Lartigue is way better than Komissar. That's one thing that I must say, that if you are playing Lartigue aggressively, you can always go behind the islands, reverse, and can reposition yourself very quickly, kite away very quickly if you want to disengage. The speed boost is there. You do have the speed boost, really decent one. Increase the speed up to 40 knots, more than 40 knots, and then you do have the base speed of 34 knots. So just works well. But do you want the 6 guns platform with cruiser dispersion, or do you want the 12 guns platform with not the best of the armor? It still not have really good armor. Trust me, the Lartigue still does not have really good armor, but is relatively better. Okay, so yeah, that's what it really looks like in Amiral Lartigue. I hope this answers the question of this cruiser. Okay, so now if we talk about the Plymouth, which is the tier 10 British heavy cruiser, not gonna say heavy cruiser, what am I saying? It's actually a light cruiser. Just by the armor scheme, it definitely looks like a light cruiser, and it is indeed a light cruiser. But the Plymouth playstyle is playing passive when the battleships are pushing, but playing aggressive when you can to fight against enemy destroyers. Let me explain why. I cannot show you the consumables in the Plymouth because I don't have this steel cruiser, but I can just explain those consumables myself. It does have the smoke lasting for long. It does have a radar and a hydro. So the Plymouth, what it does with this really decent guns, DPM is fine. It's actually less than Minotaur. And by the way, its playstyle is kind of like Minotaur, except the fact that it still have the smoke alongside with the radar. Minotaur can only use either smoke or either radar, but Plymouth can use both. But in return, Plymouth loses some DPM, and it has trash firing angles because it does have smoke. But you can still play it like Minotaur. So you play around the caps, but position really well. Your positioning is very important because you smoke up. If someone radars you back in your smoke, if you are trying to counter destroyers, it's gonna hurt you badly instead of the destroyer that you are trying to hurt in the cap, in the cap where you want to counter him. Okay, so if you position yourself well, play aggressive with the smoke, hydro, radar, you just counter destroyers well, and you just basically pushes them back because your concealment is really good, and your, I would say, the radar is very close to your concealment. I think it has 9 kilometer concealment. It has like 9.2, 9.3 kilometer concealment. Concealment numbers are as close as to the 9 kilometer of radar of Plymouth. So the moment the destroyer spots you, you just pop instant smoke. You can smoke yourself up if you feel bad in position, and then you can radar him. Okay, but also Plymouth loses one more thing compared to Minotaur, and that is that it does not have access to super heal. So these are the things that you are trading out for this massive radar power. Radar obviously counter destroyers, so they have to, you know, take out some of the more powerful gimmicks that you find on Minotaur, and it's a Edinburgh class cruiser, so it does have like 16 guns. Basically tier 8 hull, just like I would say if you have looked at the Edinburgh at tier 8, it's basically having the similar hull performance. So you expect to get Citadel for sure, but weird enough, it's not like gigantic Minotaur Citadel. Yes, it does have like armor belt, Citadel armor belt, like wide, but it's not like having that height that you don't like to see in Minotaur. So something that you should know in Plymouth. So playstyle, aggressive when needed, and then kite and smoke up and farm battleships when needed. Supporting playstyle again, but contesting caps is something that you can and I think must do in Plymouth because you do have so many consumables, you do have so many tools to deal with destroyers, and if there are any battleships pushing, you do have the torpedoes. If you do need some sort of self-defense, yes, you do have tops, but they are not enough like Minotaur. So you are definitely trading out quite some things for the radar, but aggression is possible. The smoke is the key, the radar is the key to success in the Plymouth. And just farm, play aggressive around the caps. You will see the Plymouth will work pretty good. A bit differently than Minotaur, but it does really well. I can't say that that it's just gonna straight up better than a radar Minotaur player. Radar Minotaur definitely triumphs above the Plymouth. It will do well above the Plymouth because he knows what he's doing, but he can be death strike too easily if he misses position. But meanwhile, Plymouth can smoke up. That's the reality between the Plymouth and radar. Plymouth and Minotaur. So hope that answers the question of the playstyle. Pretty similar, but again, know the weaknesses. Overmatching is possible by 240mm guns here. Something that you know. There is not overmatch. 19mm armor not going to get overmatch, but yeah. Careful from the Stalingrad guns, from the overmatching guns here, and battleship guns, then you will be fine. Alright, so now time to my favorite cruiser. I just like Stalingrad. For me, it's one of the best steel investment I have ever done. Honestly, I love Stalin. As you can see, the ship XP tells a lot. Okay, so the Stalingrad playstyle, yes, you might be thinking of the armor, and it's kind of like Moskva hull, 50mm side and deck, and you know, thick armor protection. Citadel still makes it vulnerable, but relatively, you think, right? But actually it's not. The superstructure, the bow and stern of 25mm kinda forces Stalingrad to play at the start of the game long ranges. Kiting, reverse position. If you don't understand what I meant by that, I will say it again. You basically turn out in the spawn once you are pushed just around the caps. Just basically making yourself enough that you are not getting spotted by destroyer, and then you turn out. I mean, you can just watch my older videos of Stalingrad in the YouTube channel. You will eventually see what I'm saying. So basically turn out, reverse in kiting position. so that you get closer to the cap. You do have enough range, by the way, 20.4 kilometer, to shoot the battleships, and that's the playstyle of Stalingrad. Reverse kiting, sniping. Battleships, when they broadside, because they do massive damage, the AP hits absolutely hard. It's the hardest hitting AP. I would say the second hardest hitting AP in the game. Very closely rivals to that of Sevastopol. I mean, Sevastopol is a research bureau ship, so we don't talk about that. But Stalingrad guns are just absolute amazing. They are stupidly powerful. Even in 2025, even though it got released in 2018. So, the playstyle, aggressive, no. Passive, yes. And you just play it and try, if there is a destroyer that is trying to spot you, you pop the radar. 12 kilometer. So playing passive is the key in Stalin. Reverse kiting is the key in Stalin to make the Stalingrad work. Okay, supporting the team by sniping. This is probably the only steel cruiser in the game, or I would say steel ship in the game, that just have to play like battleship in kiting. You just kite and just farm. You just kite and farm. Okay, and try to save as much HP as you can. This is the role of Stalin. Support again, radar when you need it, because if you just cover the caps with the radar, which by the way I will come up to that with the second role that you can do. There's a first role I'm saying, the passive reverse kiting playstyle. This is one. The second thing that you can do, which is sometimes difficult. I won't say it's easy, it's difficult, because repositioning will be impossible for most of the time unless you utilize those islands that I'm about to say to you guys. So the Stalingrad, you have to utilize the islands well. Okay, utilize the islands. You push to the island, use the islands as cover, kind of like Lartigue. I have talked about the Lartigue. Lartigue also use islands as cover. Stalingrad needs islands to reverse and just disengage, not exposed alongside with the islands, because sometimes players they just stay with the island and think that it's giving me the cover, but it's not, because you are not behind the island to do that for yourself to defend. So yeah, use the islands as cover and you will do well, and then you can radar more aggressively compared to the reverse kiting playstyle that I was saying. You do have two playstyles. That's it. Most of the time you push, then you use islands as cover. If you kite, then you can reverse kite and you can stay open water, and then the armor will do wonders. And if you, for example, getting fired by HE spam, you do have 60 seconds of fire duration, which hurts Stalingrad so much. But here's the thing, if you are reverse kiting, you can DCP and then just run away, and it's very difficult for them to just get a permanent fire. So you can utilize this biggest problem. And then if you are using the islands as cover, then you can also do the same thing. That's where you have to utilize the Stalingrad and utilize these amazing hard-hitting guns, crazy powerful guns, amazing accuracy, and you will see it will just absolutely demolish light cruisers. It's just a Minotaur. If you look at the Minotaur, he is dead. Colbert, he is dead. Plymouth, I was saying before, he is dead. They were just easy farming for Stalin if you just aim well and if they broadside. Okay, so the guns, the repositioning is pretty much impossible if you're using islands as cover, but repositioning during reverse kiting is definitely possible. So garbage turning circle, and if you are trying to make this radar shift time well for you, just do what I'm saying. And then obviously in the late game, then you can push. Then you can push 1 versus 1. You can definitely tank way a lot and can just trade way better compared to any other battleship. You just basically kill the battleship 1 versus 1. It's very difficult to fight against the battleship versus Stalingrad because the guns are so amazing. They will just do full pen damage even if these are angled battleships against you. That's how ridiculous this ship is. Think about this, okay? If you are comfortable with this playstyle, 2 of them that I have explained, maybe Stalingrad will do wonders for you. Alright, so now we have the Svea. And Svea kinda also reminds me of Plymouth, except that it can kinda do better. Now Plymouth has a long smoke, so you have to utilize it for a long time. You have to really work the Plymouth smoke in your favor for some decent time because it does have long duration time of smoke. But unlike Svea, which have only lasting for 40 seconds, which means that you can reposition quickly And it's kind of like a good cruiser because of that. Because you do have the same thing like the radar, except that it has less section time. So again, it's like a hit and run ship. The Plymouth is not a hit and run ship. It's basically that it has to hold the flank and stay in the smoke and control the engagement for a long time staying there. Meanwhile, Svea is basically like loves to hit and run. You basically hit for 40 seconds onto a battleship or a destroyer. For example, if you smoke up, you get spotted. By the way, the concealment, just like Plymouth, 9.3 kilometer. I think Plymouth, it's not the Plymouth, it's the Austin. But Plymouth also have very similar numbers. So you basically get spotted by a destroyer around the cap. That's the role I was talking in about the Svea. So radar, 16.5 seconds. You basically have 4 or 5 shots, something like that. Do pretty decent damage with HE shells. You do have now access to HE compared to AP. AP can be mitigated by a lot if you are angled, but HE can't be. HE will full pen on destroyers, so that's a massive advantage. And then you have short smokes. So you farm damage. If you find the position not good at all, just disengage quickly. Just turn out, run away, and for that you do have the speed boost, unlike Plymouth. And 30% maximum speed, just like that, you just instantly go out of that position. And then you do have the smokes. Oh, sorry, you do have the heals, 4 of them. So it's a good package. And, you know, helping the Svea on top of these consumables is going to be the armor. The armor is in kiting, the armor is in bowing in position, can be pretty much weirdly vulnerable. As you can see, this armor plating is 25mm. Look at this. So if you're playing aggressive bow in, once you smoke up, any battleship shooting towards you like this, most likely they will hit this area, which can be overmatched by many battleships. 406, 420, they can overmatch, but they can't overmatch this, even though it's a light cruiser. For some reason, they have given a heavy cruiser armor on a light cruiser, which is kind of ridiculous. And then, if the Stalingrad looks at you, it still has to think of one thing. It cannot overmatch your bow or stern. So that is like a really good advantage of Svea. 240mm guns cannot overmatch Svea unless we are talking Bourgogne with 380mm guns. Okay? And even the Mecklenburg can't overmatch. So you do have this tankiness, okay? And you just play hit and run radar. You do have really good fast cooldown time, unlike the Plymouth. So you basically quickly engages with the smoke and radar. Smoke and radar, speed boost if you fear that your positioning got compromised. If your position got compromised, instantly speed boost. If you are trying to farm open water, because you can play in an open water kiting ship as well. Just pop the engine boost. It lasts for 85 seconds, and definitely recommend the engine boost mod 1. And then you will just see that you don't need to use the smokes during that time. Yes, if you know how to speed juke, then if you don't know how to speed juke, then just basically play in smoke. Otherwise, you will just take a huge damage and probably gonna be blaming me that I was trying to open water and this guy actually let me to basically do that. Something that I do not want to hear in the comments. Okay, just play if you know how to speed juke, how to de-accelerate from hero to zero quickly. That's what I'm saying, so that you can speed juke the battleship. The battleship will basically overshoot you because of that. So Svea is doing really nice because of that. Okay, survivability helps a lot. So the survivability is kind of like Plymouth but better because of the armor scheme. And then the tools are so much versatile that, again, I have said many times that it is worth it over the Plymouth every single time whenever I look at Svea. And then you have torpedoes, better torpedoes than Plymouth. Plymouth have 4 tops, 4 on each side. Svea also have 4 tops, but long range, fast torpedoes. They have decent reaction time, so they will have a good chance of hitting them, getting flood, then setting fires, which you can do. The playstyle is like that: smoke up, farm, kiting away open water once you needed that smokes later on in the game, and you will do fine. So yeah, concealment will support you. Do well, help the battleships and cruisers and destroyers. You will do wonders in Svea. Amazing, really good ship. Positioning really matters, both in the Plymouth and the Svea. High risk, high reward ships. Absolutely high risk, high reward ships. Alright, last but not the least, we have the tier 9 American Cruiser. I don't know why it exists in a steel section. I cannot believe it. It should be in coal. I would be really happy to buy it for coal. I think it's something that you should never spend your steel on. I think it's the worst idea to do it because there are many other good alternatives. If this is the last steel ship that you have to buy, then Vallejo is good because it's the last steel ship that you have to buy. Otherwise, the playstyle of Plymouth, the playstyle of the Vallejo is basically kiting once again, kiting farming without having access to radar. Unfortunately, that's a reality. For having an American cruiser, playstyle, it does not have access to radar. It's a light cruiser like booster, but having some weird things, like for example 38mm deck armor, which is kind of weird, but it does give a bit of a tankiness if you are like stupidly angled, only showing this position like that. If battleship shooting like this to you, then this armor will work. Otherwise, you are going to get overmatched from this area. So yeah, these are some of the gimmicks they have given to Vallejo. The gimmick of the Vallejo is the shell velocity and somewhat decent DPM. It's not like super amazing. It's just okay. I'm not gonna say it's bad at all. It's just fine. It's somehow, I would say, maybe even good. But again, it does not bring anything to the table. It does have not the high precision spotter. It does have like the spotter plane that just loads very quickly. So you basically use them faster and faster, and play it in kiting using the islands as cover. That's what Vallejo really is. It's just a damage farmer. It's not gonna have the high game impact like Stalingrad, Svea, Plymouth even, because you don't have access to radar. Yes, you don't also have the, I would say, the plane like you find on Komissar or Lartigue. So all the other cruisers that I have explained before have something to spot destroyers, to deal with destroyer. This is the only cruiser that just does not have any tool to deal with destroyer. So it gets a huge problem once you are fighting against TDs. They're just gonna constantly spot you. So because of that, other steel ships are good, and this is not good. Don't buy it. I'm not gonna explain it fully. Yes, maybe if you want to buy it, just because if you hate CVs, yes, you do have somewhat decent DPM on the AA, and you do have the defense weapon, but even then CV will strike you. So why bothering on just getting a ship like this? Don't buy it. And playstyle is kiting, using islands as cover, farming ships if you are genuinely interested in buying Vallejo. That's basically it, what it is really look like. So I hope I haven't missed out any other cruisers. Any question is welcome. Anything that you need to know about any ship related to their playstyle or role in detail, ask me. Your feedback is welcome. I always directly answer everyone in the comment. I myself have witnessed that players do like it when I just directly answer them quickly. So you can also witness yourself if I answer relatively quickly for you. So do that. I would love to answer any question that you need to know about any cruiser that I have explained here. I hope I didn't miss any cruiser for the steel. The way I'm making steel cruiser videos is because this is your steel. It's important. Your purchase decision is very important for me because I am the YouTuber, and for you because you are the player and the viewer as well. So it's very important. You are important, and that's why I'm bringing these videos. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, and last but not least, many thanks to my Patreon members. They are always supportive. They are directly supporting me and my channel. I cannot thank them enough. They are doing an amazing job. Thank you guys. Wherever you guys are, love you guys. You are doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. This means a lot to me. And viewers, you guys are also, mean a lot. So thank you guys for staying here, watching my videos if you find them useful. Any criticism is welcome. I always take criticism fully and will also respond to them. Do better for the game and for the viewers and for this channel. Take care, guys.